Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the September 19th meeting of the Wayne City Council. If you could please silence your phones and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Mayor Racy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brock,
Here.
Councilman Dowd,
Here.
Councilwoman Wass.
Here.
Councilman Clearman,
Here.
Councilman Mulholland.
Here.
Councilman Quarles.
Here.
Quorum is present. So the first item on the agenda is administration of oath for Jeremiah Roberts, police officer. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jeremiah Roberts, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Wayne, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of police officer in and for the City of Wayne to my best ability, so help me God. So sweet. Oh, very nice.
No, I didn't. I noticed you guys didn't use it.
That wasn't mine.
One Adam 12.
One Adam 12.
Please. Okay.
Moving the agenda. First item, approve the agenda.
Move to approve, Wass.
Support Brock.
Any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 2, City Council minutes, 2A, regular meeting of September 5th, 2023.
Move to approve Quarles. Support Dowd.
Discussion?
I know we're going to address this later in the meeting, but 932300254, I just want to make sure that we're clear that this is going to be paid not from the general fund, but from the DPW maintenance fund, I believe is what it is. I believe that's what we voted for that day.
So this, you said 09230254?
Yes, ma'am.
So, let's see what,
That's
I don't have that file with me.
I'm sorry, are we discussing the wood chipper or the pickup truck?
This is the 2023 Vermeer
Wood chip.
tree chipper. And my minutes say to be paid from the general fund, which is what was on the agenda, which was,
It is the general fund. The finance director advises there will be no maintenance fund. It's the general fund.
Just a general. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Public questions regarding items on the agenda. Public comment is conducted in accordance with local, state, and federal laws. Each public comment is limited to 3 minutes, which will begin when the speaker approaches the podium unless modified by a majority vote of City Council. Public comment shall not be disruptive nor contain any profanity, racial, ethnic, religious, sexual, or national origin slurs or overtones. Public comment shall not contain defaming or slanderous personal attacks. All public comments shall be directed to City Council. City Council will not respond during public comments. Any violation of public comment procedure shall constitute a breach of the peace. If a member of the public engages in such breach of the peace, they may be ordered to be seated immediately or removed from the meeting by the chairperson of that meeting.
Good evening.
Evening, Mayor, Council. 8C. I have a question of why are we purchasing these vehicles and we're not going through our contract as we had in past meetings from Enterprise? Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Any other? Seeing none, please move the agenda.
Item number 3, presentations. 3A, Michigan Municipal League City Manager Search. Mr. Glenn Anderson.
So Mayor and City Council members, it's a pleasure to be here today. I want to thank you on behalf of the Michigan Municipal League for selecting us as your facilitator for the city manager selection process. And I want to introduce Patsy Moore. She's here shadowing me today as she will be a new executive search recruiter for the Michigan Municipal League. She'll be joining us, but I let her make a short introduction of herself and a little bit of her experience, please.
Good evening. My name is Patsy Moore. I am newly joined the MML as an executive search member. I am retired deputy city manager from the city of Kalamazoo, where I worked for 27 years. Before that, I worked with the city of Saginaw in the area of budgeting for about 13 years. So after about 40 years, I thought that was about enough. But thank you. It was a pleasure meeting everyone today and seeing your city. And good luck on your search.
Thank you, Patsy. And I'll just maybe start off with a brief process that we are following. The meeting and the purpose today has been to get information on your city and use that to put together a profile of the city, basically a prospectus ad that will be used to advertise for the position. Part of the session this evening hopefully would be to try to get a consensus on salary range and experience, minimum experience and education qualifications, and any attributes that you would like to highlight in your position ad for the position of city manager. And with that information, we will write up a draft ad, which will be several pages long. The league, and eventually we'll put the photos and make it much better. What you'll get from me is just the word processing information, and then again the league will add some of the photos and put it back into a little more much better presentation. But and then I should have that product done for you sometime in the next week to 10 days. And then I would ask for you to review that and edit and make any changes, additions, whatever you wish to do on that document. And hopefully we come to a consensus on a final product, and then we will advertise, the league will advertise that for 4 weeks. And we will publicize it in a variety of city manager-focused professional periodicals and classifieds. For example, the International City Managers Association is one that this job will be posted on. That's the place where most people who are looking to find finance, police, fire chiefs, and assistant city managers and city managers throughout the country use. We will also, of course, put it in the MML classified ads. We also will do the International Network of Asian Public Administrators, the National Association of County Administrators, Women Leading Government, Michigan Association of Counties, Michigan Government Finance Officers Association, National Forum for Black Public Administrators, and then certainly the border leagues, equivalent to the Michigan Municipal League of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and perhaps a couple others if there's any other locations that the city wants us to put it in, as well, of course, as your own website. And then once that is posted, then the league has a policy of waiting 4 weeks, so generally be 4 weeks from that date. In the meantime, then, as applicants come in, the part of my job will be to review the applicants as they come in. The league will do a social media check on those candidates. We will look for candidates that are serial candidates, not meaning they apply for majority of the positions available in the country, or we will identify managers that have specific baggage that we are aware of, just so that the council, when they look at the applicants, they are aware of that. For those that get through that process, then part of the position that I do, I will do a phone interview with the candidates for talking a little more depth of their resume and experience. We will ask them what other job opportunities they are applying for, if any, and then make sure that they would accept the position if offered for the salary range that is being at whatever is being advertised, and make sure that they are thoroughly interested in proceeding with the process. We will also at least check 2 of their references during that process. So when it goes to present to the city council in closed session, and all candidates will request confidentiality under Michigan law. And so once we go into closed session, those candidates that have been pre-screened will be presented with their resumes, as well as the candidates who have not been, that don't meet those criteria will still be available to you. So all the applicants will be available in the resumes. And out of that process, hopefully there's a consensus on the council of interviewing some of those, some or several of those candidates, and that's our goal, is to get them qualified so that you do want to interview whatever number you come to an agreement on in closed session. Then whatever candidates you select for invitations to candidates for the interviews, then I will approach those candidates and invite them to come in for an interview. And then at that point in time, if they accept your offer of an interview, then we will schedule, with, of course, the council's availability, the interview dates for those candidates selected for that. And the only other thing then at that point is both the city and the council should be working on questions to ask those candidates. We will present you with a suggested list of questions, but by no means is that the list. Hopefully many of you will have your own questions and have your own list to ask. And then if, assuming during the interview process that you are comfortable and you have a consensus to select the final candidate, then you would make an offer of conditional employment, subject to a background check and subject to successful negotiations. And of course, we'd ask that the city be prepared to establish a committee, whoever you're comfortable with as your committee, to negotiate the terms of that offer to the selected candidate. So if everything goes well using that process, we hopefully would be in a position to do the closed session sometime mid-November, and interviews late November or very early in December, which would hopefully lead to a conclusion of an offer, and then that person would presumably start sometime late December or right around January 1st. At least that's the schedule that we are on today. So first, any questions on that process itself? Yes?
We'll be looking for an employee or a contractor for this?
That'll be up to you. It depends, you know, how you wish to tonight. I guess you've had a contract employee for what, the last 8 years. That's not the norm. Very few contract managers are out there, but you successfully use that model. So that'll be your decision. The norm certainly would be, you know, a full-time employee with full-time benefits, and I understand that's not what you had. You had a contract employee without benefits, so a different model than used mostly, but that'll be that's your call. Whatever you're comfortable with, and hopefully there's a consensus can be reached on that as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that process? If not, just moving ahead, I think it's clear in our conversations just with city employees, city staff, city department heads, and council members and the mayor, you have a vibrant city, an exciting city. You've got a lot of upside potential. You do have fiscal restraints. I think you all recognize that. But you have a great community to sell. And so this will be an easy sell for the league. And just very fortunate that you realize, I think, that you have a lot of positive things going on in the city. It's very clear. And the passion and the energy of the elected officials and the department heads are as good as I've seen. So I just compliment you on that and the commitment they have for the future of the city. So hopefully that means nothing but good things for the city. And again, fully recognize your fiscal challenges and your unfunded liabilities and you know, your Act 312 binding arbitration coming up. Those are all certainly good, significant issues, but not issues that other communities haven't been in or successfully resolved. And of course, our goal is to get the city in the best position it can be for a candidate, at the same time recognizing, you know, the fiscal issues that you face on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure even this evening you will have discussions on that. So again, thank you for that as well. We do have, you know, at least I'd ask for a couple events tonight. Again, one would be to try to, whether you're going to offer this as an employee position or contract position. And then two, what the salary range advertised would be. And then three, what would the education requirements be? And four, what kind of experience?
Could you please shut off your watch? There's some beeping going on.
If it is, it's not a loud one.
Can you guys tell where it's coming from? But is that your? Yeah. Thank you for shutting that off.
And then just a couple, not to keep adding items, but also then if you do a salary range education and experience, then also at least get some thought to whether you would offer a vehicle allowance or not. I know the past practice has not been, but I just mentioned that's a standard offer of some type of either offering a vehicle or a vehicle allowance, and also if you have somebody that's coming in, if your successful candidate happens to be from out of the area, whether you would offer some type of moving compensation. That's again reasonably standard, but that's only if they're coming from out of the area or fairly long distance. And the other thing to think about is for candidates who might be coming in for the interview that are not in the Midwest or not centric to this area, whether you would offer a stipend to reimburse them for some of their travel expenses to the interview. And again, that's your call on that, but at least give some thought. Most cities offer something just as a professional courtesy, not necessarily, I mean, you want a candidate who'd come here no matter what, but at least, especially if they have to fly or rent a car and get here. You know, there is expense to come here, but that's, again, give some thought to that in your thought process as well.
Now, would you initially do those calls yourself with those people, and that's your final list that you'd be bringing to us?
We would do, yes, we would pre-screen the candidates, but only to the point of eliminating or suggesting to eliminate those that either are not a fit, meaning they have some background issues that we know of, and/or that they are just serial applicants, which again is common in this business, that you have candidates that apply for every municipal position in the country, and you know, that you don't necessarily would want that as your candidate pool. I mean,
Yeah.
on the other hand, nothing prevents you from looking at that as well.
Now, are you able to do like the first interview via Zoom, and then a second interview, bring them in person if you felt it was worth doing that way? Is that done?
Normally, what we just do is pre-screen the candidates. The council would be the one that would pick or choose whoever they wish to interview.
Okay.
And the league will not make a recommendation of the candidates, nor will we rank them. It'll still be totally the council's decision on who they want to interview. Yes.
Glenn, you did mention earlier, though, that you do an initial screening call. I don't know if you want to call it an interview, but you do an initial screening call with any potential applicants that we might want to move forward with the process, correct?
Correct. But that still wouldn't prevent you, correct. It still wouldn't prevent you from interviewing any of the other applicants because you're still going to see all the resumes.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. Just curious, including whatever the applicants would bring to the paper, is MML going to do a background in any way as far as criminal background, in any capacity, any other kind of background audits?
So once a candidate, so during the process of the screening, the social media of the person is checked. But as far as the deep background check, it would only be done once once a candidate is selected and a conditional offer is made. Then the deeper, as far as the civil lawsuit and criminal checks and driving checks and credit checks are done at that time, but only for the candidate selected. It's not done for the pool.
Any other questions? Okay.
When do we make these decisions that we have to make here? The vehicle allowance, the reload funds, the salary, when do we do all this?
Right now?
Are we doing that
Hopefully
tonight?
between now and 7.
All right.
Or at least we'll try to.
Yeah, he's going to be asking questions, kind of get a kind of poll, kind of figure out where we're at.
And then I of course, have been looking at your job description, what you just very recently put together as well. So I'm trying to be cognizant of that as well. And of course, in there, your minimum education and experience as you have written, I don't know if it's a final document or not, but I know you've been working on it. It calls for 5 to 7 years of experience as a city administrator or comparable experience in a municipal government, which certainly is good. And then it calls for a bachelor's degree or equivalent specialized training. So it's not required to have a bachelor's degree, but if they don't, they have to have at least something that's similar, whether education, training, certificates, whatever that may be. And of course, you can certainly add master's preferred, but that doesn't mean they have to have a master's either. And then 5 to 7 years experience, and then generally you would put in there, something to the effect of equivalent experience as an assistant city manager or a department head. And then, of course, you could go as far as, a CEO of a nonprofit or from the business community of a similar complex organization of your size. I mean, you can keep that pretty flexible. You will get some private sector candidates. It's just the way that will, which is good. Even if you say municipal experience, there will be some candidates who will certainly apply based on their resume that they think they can meet your requirements. biggest one is salary range, and one, I mean, whether you want them employee or contract, I guess, if there is a discussion on that, that would be the first discussion, and then either way, what would be a salary range advertised, which is, in the public sector, that's the norm for just transparency, and the fact then that you don't get people that think, if you don't put a salary range, they think they're gonna get a lot more, or, you don't want a situation where the person, if you don't advertise a range and they expect, and they come through the whole process and they're qualified, that is way out of your league either, because that doesn't do them good or you good.
And what's your recommendation?
Well, number one, the market for managers in Michigan, I would call it almost an explosion because demand exceeds supply, and that's just reality. So almost every place that I have been, even if a manager's been there 10, 20 years who's retiring or leaves to take another job, the advertised rate is higher than that person who's been there long is leaving. That's just the market. So certainly the higher the applicant, the higher the payroll range, the more applicants, the better qualified applicants you'll get. I think if you're asking me, I would suggest 135 to 150. And if that's too high, then at least 120 to 140. I mean, I guess those would be two ideas. And again, I can't spend your money, so please I respect your decision on that type of a situation. But at least that would be the range that would be similar communities, because you still are competing against, even though many communities are bigger than you and have more money, you're still competing for the management pool. That is in and around this area.
Any suggestions? Yes.
So my opinion here, I think it matters also whether or not we are doing contract employee or contractor or an employee, because with an employee, you can go a little bit less, but because you're getting benefits. With the contractor, they have to pay their own, benefits. So how do we work that in?
And then, not to complicate it, but of course, your contract manager did not have benefits, for the last 8 years.
So they're going to want more money because they're not getting those benefits.
The other issue, which just raise it, is whatever you range, you have the option, because the city manager is the chief administrative officer of the city. MERS allows you to opt out of that position in MERS if you elect to. So in other words, the city manager coming in could be in your MERS system as you currently offer, which is 1.5 and multiplier 10-year vesting with a 10% employee contribution, or you can exempt that position out as long as the contract or the agreement for the new manager states that they will not be part of MERS, and that's the only position you can opt out of in MERS is that position, and then you can go to defined contribution. So it's an interesting. So again, and I think there's pros and cons of both of those. One, if they're in MERS, you get the contribution of their payroll into MERS, and it gives them an incentive to stay for 10 years because, you think the goal would be to get vesting. On the other hand, if you're a manager, what are the odds of that person probably staying for 10 years, given the world we're in and just the average 10 years? So, I just mentioned that as another subset of your discussion. And perhaps you'd leave that to negotiations at the end, because it might be site specific to a candidate, but there's benefits to both ways. And the benefit to the city on the MERS is you have another employee contributing a much needed percent of their person into the MERS system.
Should we start talking? Yeah.
Okay, for the experience, I would say I agree with the 5 to 7 years. I think that's suitable for me personally. And to move on to the education and training, I also agree with the recommendation with the bachelor's, master's preferred, or experience. And I don't think I used the right phrase for that, for the experience work, the background. So I agree with that also. And for whether or not that they're full-time or contract, I think this person should be a full-time person. That's my personal opinion right now. And I think that the price range, the salary range that you recommended of 135 through 150 I'm comfortable with that for 2 reasons. First of all, we have a complicated and advanced sort of city going on here right now, and we have a lot of opportunities. And they're going to have a lot of work to do, not only settling in the first part, but in order to address these other things that we have coming on. We got public health, we have more economic activity coming up, we have a lot of things that we have planned, and I would like to see this person come in and be remunerated, is that the right word for that? Properly, so that they understand that they're being paid this so that they can do this. They're not gonna be left to their own, of course, but that's another consideration. So that one there, and then I think the last one we had was for the vehicle allowance. If that's the standard, then I would go along with that. I hadn't thought about that. We didn't have to consider that in the past, but I think that may be a good consideration for this. And just last but not least, the travel expense for the interview. In the event that we did attract someone from outside the region, I think that would be customary to do that. Okay.
Deb?
So I think it would just be easier to get an employee rather than a contractor, which means we would have that money going into MERS and all of that. I am comfortable with the 135 to 150. I'm not comfortable with the car allowance, just because we aren't doing that for anyone else. I'm not that comfortable with that. And as far as anyone who's interviewing that is out of state and we have to pay for that, because that's customary to do so, I would like for our first interview to be a Zoom interview. And then if we want a second interview, then we can bring them in, just so we're not just throwing money. And then allowance for relocation. Relocation is just a standard thing, but we should definitely have a cap on that.
What is a normal cost for something like that?
5,000 to 7,000 probably. I mean, in that range, I guess, depending how far. You can certainly go higher, but
But that's an average, kind of a.
5,000 to 7,000 would, and I agree, a cap would be the appropriate one, just so that you have some control over it.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, we're all gonna give our opinions on what we feel is right, and I think that in the interest of expedience, we should vote on, the different items that are here. The 5 to 7 years, the BA degree, the full-time.
We can't vote on it, we're kind of gauging a poll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. I think what we're having is a discussion, and we're offering some direction to Mr. Anderson in terms of fashioning the proposal through MML. I don't think you're looking to create any roll call votes or make any decisions that would have been lined up on the agenda. I think you're just providing discussion. It seems like Mr. Anderson's taking an informal poll of the board and getting discussion on where the board sits in terms of these items. And then you would be the council would be approving the actual job listing, wouldn't they, at some point?
Yes.
So you would be voting on the job listing down the road. But I guess before we go down the road of trying to vote on this or vote or that, my understanding is this is just going to be sort of an informal discussion providing direction.
So what you're saying is we just give our opinions and go with whatever we say then?
Sure, and then Mr. Anderson will sort of
Hopefully I can read a consensus out of this
Right.
group, but
on some items there may be consensus, on some there's not. Some items may require a little bit more thought.
So he's gonna come up with his best guess of what he feels the council's thinking and then put it
I
together.
am kind of trying to list it out, so I can kind of give that, forward that to you. Each councilman, as they're speaking, I'm kind of jotting down what they're saying, so maybe you can mold that together too.
So did you have some thoughts?
I'm total agreeance with the 5 to 7 years experience. The 135 to 150, I'm comfortable with. And I do think that this, should be a full-time employee. I think we went the contractor's route, but I think that, full-time is what we need. I'm comfortable with the vehicle allowance and the traveling expenses, so, that's my take on it.
Yes.
I guess I'll run down my list. The experience makes sense to me, 5 to 7 years or comparable. Education, BS degree equivalent, master's preferred. Employee versus contract, I would also go for employee who is a MERS employee and is contributing, we're contributing to MERS. For vehicle allowance, maybe we could meet in the middle. I know in the past, we didn't provide a vehicle allowance, but we provided a vehicle while they were at work to use. And I think that's kind of a nice one. You know, all of these are hard to balance the city's financial position versus the desire to get a qualified and experienced person who will find it advantageous for their career to come here to work. Which brings me to the salary range. I'm so notoriously cheap, but I do understand we've got these numbers in front of us. There's not a lot of debating about it. I would come in at 130 to 145 is where I would go, but I understand it'll be a consensus on that one. Salary range, experience, education, employee versus contract, vehicle allowance. And then, of course, the moving, you know, we're not going to throw money at anybody just to come talk to us. If we do get to a place where we have someone that's going to be traveling, you know, offering someone some kind of a per diem or some kind of an allowance to come here. I know I've done that in the past for jobs I've had to travel out of state for, and that's expected. A moving allowance, again, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but it makes sense if someone was moving that we would give them some kind of remuneration for that. So it sounds to me like we don't have anybody that's too far out of the line here, but I haven't heard anything that's making red sirens go off in my head.
Yes.
I'm on board with the experience. I'd prefer a full-time employee as well. Being a full-time employee, they're gonna have more benefits than the contractor we've had in the past. So I would recommend 120 to 140. I'm not down with the vehicle allowance. Paying what they are, they should be able to drive their own. I am for paying moving expenses 6,000 to 8,000. And I am for paying for them to come here for a final interview. I am for paying for a final interview. Well, travel expenses. But I think we should do Zoom for the first one as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Education, or I'm going along with the experience, 5 to 10 years, I think is going to give a good sampling of somebody that can talk to the career and talk to the trade that we're trying to go after here. Education, I think a degree is or equivalent experience in at least 10 years experience to offset. I don't think necessarily a master's is required in this capacity. I agree with you. I think that you're going to be able to put the hook in the water and get a lot of people that are looking for a full-time job versus a contract option. However, it'd be nice to, if there is, to at least have the options to consider that unique candidate that pops up if it happens. I wouldn't disallow it, seeing that we have had some consistent timeline with the person being a contractor in the role. The benefits obviously goes with the job itself as an employee. The salary range I'm thinking as an employee, because it's the salary plus the benefits that's being presented capacity. I'm thinking 125 to 140. That puts us over where we're at now, plus looking at some of the detail you provided as well as Elise has provided, puts us in the hunt, I think, based on our population. And the only thing I don't know as we talk today is what does Wayne County have to offer in a current opportunity right now? And is 17,000 belly buttons going to get somebody's attention? The retirement, the paying in the MERS, that comes with the option. This is one of those selections. It's going to be up to the candidate. Where it comes down to car and not, I know we have some functions with that currently based on some department heads, but I'd like to look at an option where maybe it's mileage while you're doing work versus a car as an option. Let's see what else. Because there's other things, there's gonna be, you know, a cell phone, a computer, the whole 9 yards that goes with the function of the job. It all bundles into something, you know, in my mind, you know, $140,000 job with benefits is gonna come somewhere into the 180, 185 range when you tie it all up. I think we have to be very conscious of our department heads and where they are and in this element, and to make sure that we're not putting ourselves into not a circle of our body, but into where we're offset a little bit with, we're heavier on the front end than we are with our department heads. So I think we have to be careful of the person coming into the environment that we have with the current department heads that we have. I think that covers everything for me.
I'm comfortable with the 125, the 145, 140, if that's the area that we need to go. I think I'd also be comfortable with lowering it maybe even to 3 years. I mean, I'm open to talking about that. I think we're looking at a position that is not the normal position because we're in the financial situation that we are in, and we may be able to help find the right person and mold that to what we need a little bit. I think I'm open to either a contractor or employee, depending on what best suits. I mean, I don't know if we can advertise, we're open to either way for people. I don't have a problem with that. I think there's benefits either way with that. I do know that I kind of like that option with not having them being MERS, if that's an option. I think that's something we should, you know, at least explore. I thought our city manager, former city manager, had mentioned that it made it easier for her to negotiate because she wasn't the one getting the same deal. So when you're at the table, that's something that we need to think about when you're trying to get the best deal for the city. That seemed to be a problem in the past. So I think that that's something we should look at as an option. But I think as far as the vehicle, that's a tough one because I was here when they cut all the vehicles. And so I think I'd be open to it, but I don't know that that's something we should be getting into if we don't have to. Yeah.
One other thought I had on the moving expenses is when I've done this in project management in the past, there was always a minimum amount of time on the job. So in other words, if we pay for their moving expenses and they quit within 12 months, they reimburse us for that. That we were not just paying to get them out here, so they go somewhere else.
That would make sense, certainly.
Yeah. We get a 1-year guarantee, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, you do. That makes sense, of course, to have something.
Yeah.
Just in case, just to protect the city. You're pretty much in consensus with most things, you know, the range, just looking at 4 of you are at least 130 to 150 range, although again, 2 of you are 135 to 150. And well, three of you are at that range. One's at 130 to 145. 2 of you are 120 to 140, give or take 5. And 1 of you is at 125 to 140. So you're all close. I mean, that's, I guess, as close as we're going to get. But
Yeah, it gives you an idea that we can start something.
and we could even do, I guess, you could do 120 to 140 or 145. I mean, it's a range. That doesn't mean you will. You can do the low side or the high side depending on the experience and qualifications. And you have, again, with your MERS option and or defined contribution option, I mean, you have you have both pros and cons. You have some options that a candidate might like one or the other, depending on their circumstance as well. Mm-hmm. So at least you're open to that, even though there's advantages to having them in the MERS too. I mean, so and I think candidates today, many of the defined benefits are closed now to new hires, so at least you still have that, even though on a lower multiplier than other city employees, but you have that. So which is still very good compared to most, most jobs today. And that makes you competitive.
So, I mean, if we put it out there like that, 125, 140, and can we, you know, put, these are some things that are negotiable in there? Like you can be a contract or an employee, you know, contractor or an employee. We have options for you,
given
just to entice, let's see who we get and.
Given your past practice, yes, I think you could, I would certainly say the previous manager who was here for 8 years was a contract employee. The city would be, you know, open to that if the candidate was in their best interest, right? In some
Yeah,
way.
I think I would like something that leaves those options in there so that we can, you know, look at as many people.
We're open to anything.
Yeah, we're kind of open to, we want someone who's going to be good at the job. We're open to negotiations to get that.
Yeah. No, and it gives you that little flexibility. There could be a candidate out there that wants that. I mean, even though it's not the norm, but then it was the norm here. So it was what you found and was successful, so.
The one thing I skipped over and didn't, maybe I didn't hear, what's recommended, which was term of the contract. I mean, you got the standards, we're the exception in this city, you know how it is.
Well, I mean, first, and not speaking for the city, but I mean, most agreements would be at will. And so even if you had a 3 or 5 year contract, it's still at will.
Yeah.
But it's common to have a 2, 3, 4 year contract. Now, for a new employee, you know, 1 to 3 probably would make the most sense. And then standard would be to have at least some severance in there if they're terminated by the council for cause. You know, there's the norm would be 3 months of severance after 2 years, you know, 4 months after 3 years, 5 months. I mean, but they're still at will. And again, you may or may not want to do that, but as a standard, you would have an agreement, let's just say for 3 years, and they're still at will. They can be terminated at any time, and then there's at least a severance offered to them at X amount of months of pay. So that's kind of the standard. Doesn't mean you have to do that. It's just a standard.
Do you have to have a contract where you have an end date, or is it kind of open and we have it when we would open the contract type of?
Some do it automatically renewables. I mean, annual renewable automatically if the council or the party doesn't terminate that.
Because that was something that we were talking about right before.
Right. And then, of course,
before
the
all
other
this
thing
happened.
that fits into that would be, some type of evaluation clause saying the council will evaluate every 6 months, every year, every year before renewal. I mean, they're very flexible. I mean, you can pretty much write that. But it's common to have evaluations written into at least the terms so the person knows they're going to be evaluated, whatever frequency you wish to have. And that's healthy for both parties, right? I mean, that would be good. Good, healthy, so that if they're not doing things right, you can pick it up early, and then the person knows the expectations the council has, and can try to direct themselves if needed to that correction, if that's, or they may turn out to be so good that, that you're happy with that person too. But.
Okay, yes.
Glenn, I heard you say something earlier, and I want to make sure that I heard you correctly and that it wasn't a mistake. You said if they were terminated for cause, they would still get a severance.
No, I should take that back. I mean, if they were terminated for cause, no, they would not.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Sorry if I misspoke there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure or that I was clear on that, because I am not a fan of if you're terminated for cause, getting anything when you leave. If you're terminated for no cause, still not a big fan of that, but I would defer to my fellow council members on a small severance package. I have confidence we're going to hire a good city manager that's going to be a good fit, but I just don't want to pay someone if we find out there is cause that we're paying them something on the way out the door.
Yeah. And I think just to keep in mind, and of course your attorney can certainly write that what you just said, and that makes sense. But remember, like for example, superintendents in the state of Michigan have a due process clause automatically under state law. Meaning at least you got to have a hearing, you know, where city managers don't have that, you're just at will. I mean, unless you're lucky enough to be in a city where eventually they love you, they might sign a contract that's, you know, no-cut contract, you know, which is, if you raise up to that level, and some cities certainly have done that, but certainly not in the early stages of a career.
Any other council questions? Okay, anything else from you?
No, I think, unless there's any other thing, I think I have everything I need, and then again, feel free to edit whatever I send you. I mean, it's your product. I mean, I'll write it, but it's your product, and if I made a mistake or if there's something that I didn't catch, I mean, let's correct it now, because once the ad's out, then the fun begins, so.
Yep. We'll review that one before.
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
So we expect to get that from you in the next week, and then,
Week to 10 days. I'll try the sooner the better, but.
then we'll vote on it on the October, or the first October meeting.
So when meeting you have coming up, October?
First Tuesday.
Okay. That would be my goal.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
City Council, I appreciate it again. Thank you
Okay.
for the hospitality today.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you guys want to take a break, or we can keep going? The next item will be here at 7, but the person after that is here. We can have them just flip A and B. Are we fine with that? Do we have to vote on that?
I think you'd probably have to have a motion to suspend the rules.
Yeah,
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Support Quarles.
To swap the two site plans.
yes.
Well, suspend the rules, and then you have to make a motion
I need
to.
I need somebody to make a motion to swap them.
I make a motion that we swap
A and B.
4A and 4B.
Support.
Suspending the rules first?
We did. Oh, we got to vote on it.
You can have a roll call and suspending the rules, and then you would take your action on swapping the items.
All in favor and suspending the rules?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's unanimous.
Now you'd have the vote on transposing the two agenda items.
Make your motion, please.
I make a motion that we transpose 4A and 4B.
Need a second, please?
Support, Bloss.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Item 4B, Site Plan 2023-06, construction of 3 multifamily housing on top of an existing retail space. ID number 55-006-070001-301.
Move to approve, Dowd.
Support, West.
Good evening. Ms. Cohen.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I stand before you this evening to present 2 very exciting site plans. This isn't working. I don't know if you can hear me, Ryan, but it's not working. So if you could advance the slide, please, thank you. What you have before you this evening is 35603 Michigan Avenue. This site is located just south of Karma Coffee and west of Elizabeth Street. It's a current retail strip center. The property is zoned MU in our new ordinance, which is mixed use. The petitioner is with us this evening, Zainab Bazi and Ahmad Darbus, who is her architect. They did go before the Planning Commission last week. Again, that's mixed use. They're proposing additional multi-family housing on top of retail. This is something in our new master plan that is noted in 3 different areas of the master plan for our downtown and our Michigan Avenue corridor is to do retail on the first floor, multifamily housing on the subsequent floors. With this development, they're looking at 24 units, 6 one-bedroom units at 600 square feet apiece, 18 two-bedroom units at 800 square feet. This proposal, we could forward, Ryan. You can see the property. One more, Ryan, for me. Okay. The front, rear, and side backs do meet the ordinance. One more, Ryan. The proposed parking does meet the amount of required spaces for the development. It actually has a few extra. The existing screening that is around the property that screens them from residential was approved by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did vote unanimously to approve this subject to 14 conditions. I can take any questions or bring the petitioner up if you have any questions for the petitioner at this time, but I just draw your attention to on the screen right now the proposed rendering. Beautiful development. It might remind you of, I don't know if anybody's been downtown lately near PAL, the old Tiger Stadium. You're seeing a lot of this type of development above retail on Michigan Avenue, so very excited to have it in our downtown.
Any questions from council?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Just curious on the timeline for the development.
Good evening, everyone. So we are hoping to have this construction done within a year. So the ideal case scenario would be by the end of summer of next year.
Thank you.
When would it start, if it was approved?
Around spring.
Yes.
Would the existing water and sewer lines accommodate this?
Excuse me?
Any other questions? Yes.
Could you tell me exactly where, I heard the west and east, what did this building used to be? You said that it's currently a strip center. I was out looking and I couldn't find it, and I believe I was looking in the wrong area.
It's where the appliance store is.
The appliance store, walking the Lake Ministries, and the dance studio, so it's just the street over from Pizza Hut.
Across the street.
This, okay, that was my,
My picture might be upside down.
that's what it was, and it was showing Clark Street, which I live on, in a place that I couldn't figure out why that was Clark Street, but this makes more sense to me now. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Now, what's the businesses that are in there will be moving out by, how does that work?
Yeah, so right now the dance studio would remain, the appliance store would have to go. And there's also a church and a salon, hair salon.
And that they'll have to relocate? Or are they gonna stay? I mean, how does that work with building, and do they have to move out while you're building? I'm assuming they do.
No, if we can provide the conditions where they can stay while we're doing construction, then we're gonna do that. If not, then we would have to lay them off until the first ceiling is above them.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
How are the residents gonna get into the upper floors? Are they gonna go through the commercial area? Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but I don't see any entrances to the apartments.
So at the first floor, there's 6 units, and we're gonna be replacing the one in the center to become a lobby. And from that lobby, you have elevator and staircases that takes you up to the upper floors.
Very good, thank you.
Mayor, one more question.
Yes.
Does your group currently own the real estate that we're talking about today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing you begin the work and accomplish it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any other questions? I think this is exciting. You know, this is exactly what we put a master plan together for, to see something like this happen and help develop and bring more residents to the downtown. So I appreciate your investment in the community. Are you guys fine with the conditions? What is it, 14 conditions that were presented to you?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
There's a place in Novi.
5-10 minute recess.
Let me look at the. I'm looking at this. Yeah. Well, do we have to suspend the rules again, keep going, and then bring it back when it comes, or do we take it?
You can just pass it, and keep going, and then when they come in, you'll just
Okay,
add them.
okay, yeah. We're fine, because we don't. Yeah, let's just go ahead and pass through that, and then we'll bring it back.
Okay, so you're passing on the
4A,
4A, and are we moving on to item 5?
yes.
Item 5, ordinances and amendments. 5A, approval of the second reading and adoption of ordinance 2023-08 to revoke Chapter 894, Sections 894.01 to 894.07, service charges in lieu of taxes, Article 1, Atwood Gardens of the Wayne City Code. This project was canceled.
Move to approve, Dowd.
Support Brock.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Moving on to item number 6, appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. 6A,
Opposed? Motion carries.
okay, item 6B, approval of the appointment of Chief Ryan Strong as alternate member to the Conference of Western Wayne.
Move to approve, Dowd.
Support Ross.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 7, communications and reports. This is a receive and file. It's revenue and expenditure report for period ending August 2023.
Receive and file.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 8, general items. Approval of directing the city attorney and the personnel director to negotiate the compensation for acting interim city manager Ryan Strong, retroactive to September 1st, 2023.
Move to approve, Dowd.
Support Ross.
Discussion.
Yes.
Back in August, we had agreed that Chief Strong would take this until the 5th. We had a meeting to determine who the interim manager would be. I said the retroactive pay go back to the 5th when we decided that. It was on the 1st.
August 5th.
September 5th, when we made the determination that Chief Strong would be the interim.
All right, I think,
Respectfully, I took over city manager duties on September 1st.
Right, but that was acting until we could have you on the 5th.
I don't have a problem personally with keeping it the way it is, but it's up to council.
Well, he's been acting city manager in the past when Lisa had been away.
Yeah, but
We
Lisa
didn't pay anything extra for that then.
yeah, but Lisa really was away. He was it. I mean, it wasn't the same.
So if Chief Strong hadn't been determined to be the interim one, on the 5th, we'll be negotiating for 4 days of pay at this point.
I guess, and this was just as the person that wanted to have this item in front of council, I think that it would be fair to pay somebody for the services they performed during the time which they served them.
Right, so my question is, if Chief Strong had not become the interim manager on the 5th, Would we be paying him for the 1st to the 4th?
I can't really answer a hypothetical. You probably would be paying somebody a much higher rate of pay if they were to come in from another position to serve in that capacity. So I think the city's actually gonna wind up saving a considerable bit of money, because the chief has been willing to step up and serve in this capacity.
Well, at the time we had the meeting in August, we had to appoint it from somebody who was in the meeting. The only department head we had there was the chief.
You could have, you had a number of options available at that point to you, and the chief was the best option, so that was the.
Well, the chief was the only option.
Pardon me?
In the August meeting, the chief was the only option. We had no other department heads here.
No one else was there to accept, but,
Right.
I mean,
Except for the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, we didn't know he was resigning.
It's the decision of the council. I proposed it as going back to the date that the service started, which would have been September 1st, so
Yeah,
it's the council's decision.
and everybody knew that she resigned. It was a matter, we didn't know when her last day would be based on what the council would decide.
Right, and then her last day wound up being
The
August
30th,
31st.
yeah, or 31st, yes.
Right, but had we known that ahead of time, we could have the other department heads in here so we could have a choice.
Okay. Yeah,
I would like to say I would like to leave it on the 1st and appreciate that you stepped up to take this on. So I am comfortable with paying him for the 4 days.
okay, yes.
I also recognize it as written, and thank you very much for stepping forward and performing this activity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any others? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 8B is the approval of the pilot program agreement with Michigan Outlaws for the use of Atwood soccer fields for football and cheer squad for the 2023 season.
Move to approve, Dowd.
Support, Quarles.
Mr. Queen?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. So this was something that, where I had an idea quite a few years ago, probably 3 to 4 years ago, when we had the WBA that was using the Forest Park fields. As you well know, that we don't have the manpower to provide the parks and recreation that used to be provided. And so we were still providing services to that organization. And so before they had disbanded the WBA, we were working towards it to start to charge a fee, a rental fee basically for the fields. But they had disbanded and had gone in a different direction at that time. As I was working, one of the contractors we had that was cleaning our building was Step, a gentleman that I used to talk to that would come in to clean the buildings. He actually had a program out in Belleville that was a baseball program where they were doing something similar to what we're about to see if you will approve tonight. They had an agreement, so I had gotten his agreement from him and looked it over and started to kind of, I gave it to the lawyers back then to kind of look it over and draft something. I think we did a one draft on it at that point, and it kind of just didn't go anywhere. Fast forward, we had the Michigan Outlaws that were currently using the Sue Wynn Vandenberg School area over there, but there wasn't a lot of parking, and so that was kind of creating a little bit of an issue over there. So they had decided to pick up from there. Had come forward and asked me if they could, if there was some way that they could use the parks over at Waltz Avondale. We couldn't really give them a confirmation to say, yes, you can go ahead and use them without some sort of agreement. And anybody that comes to use the parks are allowed to use them kind of because they are public parks. So I think it was 2 years ago where they were using the Waltz Avondale. And of course, there was plenty of parking over there, so we had directed them over in that area. And Chief Strong had also, we had that discussion as well, just to say, hey, would this be an okay thing as far as crowd control or just different things happening out there in that area as well. And he said, yes, it would be. And also talked to the past, city manager, Nasserini. So we all thought it would be a great idea. Mr. Franklin Ken had come forward from Michigan Outlaws asking if we could maybe work something out with them. So they kind of went through that year over there at Waltz Avondale. And then they relocated again because it was just, they have a lot of things going on from the hours. I think it was between 5 and about 8. And of course, you would have a lot of whistleblowing and different things happening. And so of course, you get some concerns from the residents in that area as well. Even though it's a public park, they have every right to be there and use it. They went ahead and relocated on their own this year, this year in the beginning, over to Atwood Soccer Fields. And so he had reached out again. So we had never really said no to him. It was just that we were working on it. It was just something that was on the back burner for right now because we had so many other things that we needed to work on in our workload as far as getting to this point. So when he approached this year, before Lisa had left, we sat down with Ken and his family and then his coaches and had a meeting at my office to go ahead and kind of work this out. We had sent the agreement once again to the lawyers. They went ahead and redrafted with Lisa's help. She kind of took the lead on that one to kind of get a better draft on it. So the lawyers were able to do that for us. And so now we have an agreement that is showing that the Michigan Outlaws will be, we wanted to make sure that they could use the fields. They were asking from June to November for 6 months. The weekday use would be from Tuesday to Friday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The size of the organization is about 130 plus, and that's including the football group and the cheer squad and student athletes, plus the coaches and the board. 80% of the Wayne residents at the Michigan Outlaws are from Wayne. Others are attracted from the surrounding communities. So once I finally crunched some numbers to try to make this happen, because Lisa and I had agreed as well, we didn't want to kind of hurt the organization. We want them to come in and be able to give those activities to the kids, and they also help out as far as getting kids involved in the sporting events rather than just sitting on the couches at home. So we didn't want to do that. So the rental space agreement, so we have to factor in all of our costs when it comes to all these things, the mowing costs. So that was part of the agreement that that gentleman, when he approached me from Belleville, said, oh yeah, well, we pay for all the mowing, we do all these things. So the cost for him, I think, was over $3,000 for the season to be able to do that. So after me crunching the numbers down as much as I could, because of our DPW costs, the rental space agreement that we agreed upon with the Michigan Outlaws and Ken Franklin was $1,514.66. That's based on the rental, the labor and equipment and mowing costs. And these costs are well below the true cost for DPW involvement. So we were able to do that. They were willing to go ahead and take that on. And so if it's the wish of the council to go ahead and do that tonight, we would greatly appreciate that if this agreement was approved. But in the meantime, let me have Ken come on up. Ken, why don't you go ahead and explain a little bit about your organization and the things that you're looking to do moving forward.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening.
As Ed said, first I want to thank Ed from day one. We always try to do things the right way for the kids. I'm not the type of individual that just want to jump in somebody's park and start playing without backing of the police, the community, and everything. So we have, totally not Ed, we over 150 kids going on like 160. So we always want to try to find a home. But the biggest thing we had an issue with is finding someone where the kids can play at a safe environment. And we started our program in Wayne, Westland. We was the Vikings, the Michigan, Wayne Vikings. Then we merged with a program called Michigan Warriors about 5 years ago. We liked the community here. We didn't care so much about being in Belleville because we have more kids, more communities surrounding from Inkster, Romulus, Wayne. You could attract more kids. So we said, we got to find a home. That's what we said, okay, let's try Suwin. Worst spot ever. The parking was terrible, as Ed stated. I don't want to be redundant. It was just trying to find a safe spot. At, Waltz? Mm-hmm. Great parking. 4 baseball diamond is huge. We can utilize it for the space. But, of course, neighbors complaining. But we brought kids out. One thing I know is we brought kids out. More kids attracted to the parks, and that's what I love to see. More kids that didn't even play football or cheer. They came to the park just to be around. We looked at hype. Ali, Ahmed Ali, Ali, like, hey, let's work something out. Continue to talk with Ed and let's go and basically work something out so we can build something together in this area. Atwood Park, he said, Ken, look at Atwood Park. I love Atwood Park because no one's around us. It's just, y'all know it's sit up behind Franklin Middle School. My kids went to Franklin Middle School. My son graduated now, so I have no kids in the program. I just do this for the love of the kids. So Atwood was kind of a quiet spot. Now we're attracting more families there. There's been usage and more activity. I guess kids bring other kids. So we're just hoping that we can come to an agreement. Maybe we can find a home. So appreciate it.
And then also to add to that, he had also said that with his programs, that a lot of those kids have moved on to the programs for the high schools for Wayne Memorial, and I believe you said John Glenn too as well.
Yeah, y'all starting quarterback now. Devin was my quarterback, at Wayne Memorial. We got at least 15 over at John Glenn, about 15 to 20 at Wayne Memorial right now. So we not want a program that we force a kid to go somewhere, but if you're in the community, stay home.
Well, if we make this agreement, all the good players come to Wayne Memorial.
Well, I didn't give my son back then, okay? But no, again, we have all the coaches come through because, again, I understand it's sports, but we want to be a part of the community and get the kids in the right location for the sake of the family, where they can grow in the sports. And we're doing more with the partnership we're trying to work on with Hype. It allowed us an indoor facility. Being in Michigan, we're shorthand with the weather. It's getting dark. So actually, we're going to be there till about 7:15, 7:30 in probably this week, starting this week, it's getting dark. So I hope we can find some way to agree and keep moving to keep the kids in the community and build Wayne Memorial because they need the players.
Yep, we do. They do.
It is what it is.
Any other questions? Yes.
I want to thank you for bringing the program here and the work that you're doing with the children. This is something that we really need here in Wayne, and you've obviously identified it, and the fact that you're providing services and bringing the children in from Inkster and Romulus and all around the area just to participate around there, I really admire that greatly, and thank you so much.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Councilman Clairman?
I want to echo what Mayor Pro Tem Brock said. This is a great thing for the community. I do have a couple questions for Ed, though. With this being 2 hours a night, 4 nights a week, 160 kids, someone's going to have to use the bathroom. The bathrooms, they're going to be opened up during that time?
So no, they are not. That's not part of the agreement because a lot of times it takes a lot more manpower for us to have somebody man those bathrooms. Ken did offer to, monitor that for us, but we in the past, and anytime those things have happened, sometimes even though he's there for his organization, those bathrooms end up being open for the rest of the public as well. So then somebody goes in and vandalizes the bathrooms and then we're having to repair them. So as part of the agreement, Ken is required to have a porta-john on site, which they do have. So they do have a facility to be able to use the porta-johns at his cost as well. And we have a location that we already picked out to be able to do that.
Great. And then there's a number of vagrants in that area. Are we going to be cleaning up the pavilions before they come into play?
Say that again, how many?
The pavilions are kind of trashed there a lot of the time. Will DPW be taking care of that before the outlaws come out?
So we already have staffing that does go around and collect, empties all the trash cans on I think it's like once a week at least, and then therefore is needed. But as far as some of that other stuff, Ken, as groups has agreed as well to make sure that they're cleaning up the area where they're using as well. But for the most part, we've got that cut down quite a bit because the one roadway entrance that was to the back pavilion, we keep that locked unless there was a pavilion rental, because there was a lot of activity that was happening that the cleanup afterwards was not worth doing. So that is now closed, and then as well as the main entrance is open at all times, but we don't see a lot of other, like you're talking about, a lot of garbage and things. If we do, our guys are already required to pick that up.
All right, and it says the retail space costs are well below the true costs. What are the true costs?
The true costs, probably be double that, probably almost $3,000 for us to be able to do all of that for Ken. Our costs for DPW, when they used to have a rec department, their costs were part-time workers and things that they had available to them to be able to do that. Because our job is normally for DPW functions, our wages are a lot higher, so a lot of times we have to use those costs, because that's what there is nobody else to be able to do that, so.
So given that, why aren't we charging more?
Why aren't we charging more? Because we don't want to hurt the organization, otherwise they're not gonna be able to come in and do what they need to do to provide that to the children. So Lisa and I, when we talked that over, it wasn't to have them come in and kind of just bombard their whole funding source that has to be for, you know, the kids and everything that they need to do to participate in these, programs, so.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for choosing Wayne.
Any other questions?
More of a statement than a question. When I first read this, Michigan Outlaws, I believe there's a motorcycle affiliation that has that same name.
Yeah, back, I think it's in the city.
Yeah, I didn't see you wearing your
Oh,
vest
no,
and
no,
your
no,
colors.
no. I'm 53 years old. The wife said no more motorcycle situations.
But I also, if we're gonna make a deal with an organization to do something for them when they bring that many kids into the neighborhood, I think this is a great idea, and we appreciate you guys being here, and wish you luck on the season, and keep sending those kids our way.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, I walk that Atwood Park every morning, 2.5 miles, and I absolutely am excited for you to bring the kids over there. It is going to be so nice to see that facility used. Now we just got to get the baseball diamonds going,
Talk
so.
about that. That's in the plans to do a baseball program too.
Oh, that would be
So,
wonderful.
program. So we're gonna do a baseball program and basketball. Well, Hype already got basketball going. We can work with them and talk to them more about using the facility. So that's in the works.
Thank you for choosing Wayne.
You're welcome.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
Yes, Councilman Was.
Go ahead.
Ladies first.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you, that you guys found a home. I'm also happy it's not by Sue Inn, because the parking was terrible, and I live over there, so we tried as best as we could to stay out of the way, but I'm glad you guys found a home, because it was great to see all those kids out there. You had a lot of kids out there, so I'm happy you got to stay, and we're happy to have you. Thank you for choosing Wayne.
Appreciate everything.
Thank you, Mayor. My 12-year-old granddaughter is a cheerleader for the Comets, so I'm getting my feet wet with that stuff nowadays. Questions I have for you is this padded football, or is this?
Padded.
It's pads, okay.
Padded, we do padded, we do flag, and we call 7-on-7 and big man. We do it all when it comes to football. Yep.
All right, so the games are gonna be played there too, as well as practice?
No, that's another situation. We used to play at John Glenn and Wayne, but it had no field availability. Belleville got us, they sticking us up, but we had to go to Belleville. Or someone mentioned PAL. I'm part of the PAL League, so we at the PAL facility downtown as well.
Yeah, it's a great facility. Mr. Queen, you mentioned that we have an agreement written, right?
We do.
Okay, and I just want to make sure, did our lawyers look at it and give it the blessing?
They did, that came right from them.
Okay, just want to get it on record to make sure everybody's on the same page on that. I do have to correct you, though, because I know Ray Loeffler's at home, probably yelling at the TV. Wayne Baseball Association is not disbanded. They want to come back, and they know, I think they know that they can't do it on their own. So a cooperation between Hype, the Outlaws, they used to be the Wayne Warriors, too, just so you probably know that. And would be a great, fantastic thing for the baseball fields, I think. And it takes a village sometimes to get the kids out away from the video games and out on the field. I think it is fantastic that programs are allowed to go on the high school that they eventually be playing at. I don't know why Glenn can't open their heart a little bit or Wayne can't open their heart a little bit and let you on the field, so that they can be on the field itself, versus going to that other orange one out there in Belleville. I myself was a Rocket, so I'm okay with you sharing it, both of them.
Appreciate it.
So with that, I think that's all I have right now. Thank you for answering my questions.
Okay, anything else from anybody else? No, I too want to just echo what was being said tonight. I'm excited to have you guys participating over at Atwood. I think that's a great fit. Now, will you guys be lining the field then and doing the whole thing, or how does that look?
I want to, but that's a lot of work. I have done it,
Yeah, so,
I have done
so you
it,
might be just practicing on
Just
the soccer field for now?
I spoke to the principal at Franklin because it's right adjacent, right behind it. I'm working on something with them as well. Just utilize maybe the field goal post at the time you get out there, just to get some kicking practice, or just get the visual of the field for the kids.
Right.
So I'm working on that.
Oh, that's great. I'm excited to see kids using our parks again. That's something I know that all the council have a passion for our community and want to see those parks being used for the next generation. So I appreciate all the hard work that you put in and your organization. This is going to be fun. So thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council.
Thank you, Ed, again. Thank you.
Good job.
Item 8C, approval of the Department of Public Works purchase of 4 2023 Ford F-150 pickup trucks from Jack Demmer Ford through the Ford Credit Municipal Finance Program for the annual cost of $37,319.61 for the next 5 years, to be paid from the Water and Sewer Capital Outlay Fund.
Wish of council?
Make a motion to approve.
Support Brock.
Okay. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening again, Mayor, members of council. So the question was asked, I want to answer that one right off the bat. It was about Enterprise. So when Enterprise came in wanting to kind of get us on board to try to do these vehicles, it's not so much a good idea for like our department, we felt, but at the same time, we were going to try to do that with the other groups that were going to go through that as well. As you know, that happened right around COVID. And so the difficulty of getting trucks in, it wasn't an easy task. And so they were never able to really secure any trucks for us. And moving forward, when it was probably a couple of years later, when we kept, they kept reaching out to us, we kept going back and forth. Like the building and engineering department, they had trucks slated, but then they ended up going with Escapes because they weren't able to secure those trucks either. And so the trucks that we had, by that time, the governmental pricing, the additional pricing that they had reduced, was no longer there. So now the trucks that they were going to, that they were kind of throwing my way were like more in the area of $50,000 per truck. So we kind of just sat on it. I wasn't in the market to buy at that rate because I let them know that as well. As well as the trucks, when they're in the DPW, they get beat up a lot more. So to the value of them, getting them back to the enterprise, the value, it wouldn't be as great as it would be with somebody else that's just driving it around town. We use ours for construction and everything in between, so they would have gotten them back with a bunch of dents, dings, and scrapes and scratches. So by waiting, though, I had been talking to Demmer Ford because I knew that the chief had kind of gone through, like, I think a municipal financing program as well, or a municipal program where they're able to actually provide the trucks to us almost at cost, similar to like a My Deal or a Sourcewell. And so that was the case here. We reached back out to Demmer, been working with Bob Pugh, and so they said, yes, we can get you 4 trucks. They were at $39,000 a piece, I believe, but by doing a lease to own, at the end of the contract, we would be paying $1 and then they would be ours, but we would be paying over the course of the 5 years, $37,000 a year. And then we would agree with them to pay that out in one annual lump sum, not make payments like you normally would with a lease. Just doesn't make sense for us in finance and all the headaches. And so it would be at $37 per year for the next 5 years, which would cover the cost of those 4 Ford F-150 pickup trucks. Those trucks are going to replace 4 in our fleet, and so a lot of times what we do is we continue to use our trucks. We basically use them until they die. And so the trucks we currently have, we probably have had them for 20 years. And then a couple of the other trucks, we just rotate them is what we do. So some of the foreman's trucks that they're currently using are made for snow plowing. That's where we also reduced our costs as well, because we don't like to overbuy when we're buying, and we make good decisions as we're doing this. So those get pushed into the fleet to be able to use for snow plowing trucks. And these now, the F-150s, we did not decide to get them for snow removal, only because they still need to be 4x4s, but they'll be used as foreman trucks to be able to do their task day-to-day operations. Therefore, these trucks should be able to last us a long time because they're just being driven around town. The foremen are checking up on their crews and doing that types of things. So we felt this was a very good deal coming from Jack Demmer with this credit municipal finance program. So it is just recommended that hopefully you guys will consider approval of this purchase.
Questions from council? Yes.
So this was a budgeted item?
Yes, that's.
Okay, just, may need to make sure.
I rechecked this time through finance, and this one was, it's in our 5-year capital improvement plan with water main and sewer projects, because we will all be coming out of water and sewer. And so Mike and I, when we do this, I always throw equipment in there as part of that cost that we can actually take out of water and sewer, depending on what type of piece of equipment it is. So I did check with Katie. There's 22,500 coming out of water, and 22,500 will come out of sewer. So that's 45,000. We actually have budgeted for these for the next 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Clariman?
Last week, you asked for last meeting, you asked for $106,575 for tree chipper. This one's skipping ahead to 8D, you're asking for another $61,576, the same chipper. A little bit later this year, you're gonna be asking for the money for Director of Public Works. At this point, I don't really think we can afford 4 pickup trucks right now.
Well, they're budgeted for, so that we can afford them. It's in the budget. I don't know if we want to talk about the 8D just yet, right on that. But these are budgeted for, so we can afford them. We have the money in the budget. Otherwise, we wouldn't have brought these to you.
You said these have a 20-year life cycle. Are all 4 gonna be dying in the next year, or can we space this out over a few years? So one this year, one next year, one the year after?
Well, these have all been budgeted. They were budgeted back in 2000, I think it was 19, when we were trying to work with Enterprise. So now 4 years have passed, and 4 years have been added to the lives of those other trucks that we were already going to be pushing off into the junkyard. One sits in the yard now because we don't even use it. It was an old recreation truck that came over from them. But the longer you wait on a lot of these things, what you do is you increase your cost, because then the cost goes up on the trucks when you wait further on down the road.
I'm concerned if all 4 in 1 year, we're gonna have the same problem in 20 years. We're gonna have 4 trucks that'll die at the same time.
That's okay, because we rotate our trucks out. The trucks that are in our fleet currently right now are gonna gain years and then get rotated. And at some point, these trucks, we will push them out to the fleet to be used in other fashions. So our trucks, they're multi-use, so we use them, like I said, until they die. We just keep pushing them until they can't take any more abuse, once we're done with them.
So we're gonna push the existing trucks until they're dead, and then put these ones in the fleet? Or are we gonna be using the new ones before the old ones die?
These ones are gonna probably last longer, like I was explaining, because we don't have them outfitted for snow plowing. So they're just gonna be foreman's trucks, so these ones will last quite a long time, probably more than 20 years.
So will the foreman use the existing trucks at first? Or are they gonna put the new ones in rotation right away?
Say that again?
Will the foreman use the new trucks right away? Or will they continue to use the old trucks until they die?
Yeah, so the foreman, if these trucks come in right away, they'll use them right away, because we'll be pushing the other trucks that they're currently using, because they're snow plowing trucks, and we're coming up on snow plowing season. They'll be pushed into the fleet. The ones that we have slated that have been used for other uses in our fleet will be pushed off to auction.
Can we use 4 in snow plowing season? Do we have enough plows for that?
Do we have enough plows for
using these for snow plow trucks?
these?
Yep. Well,
No, we don't want to outfit these with snow plows, because the cost will go up. The old ones?
Yep.
They all have plows already.
Oh, great.
Everything in our fleet was snow plow ready before. So the foreman, we would assist as needed if we needed to, but we've gotten to the point where this is really the laborer's position, not a foreman or a manager's, to go out and do what is required by the union to be doing. So we've changed kind of the whole outlook of how we perform the job at DPW. The managers have a job to do as far as overseeing the crews. The crews have a job of doing the work.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Just to clarify, this is not coming out of the general fund, this is coming out of the water and sewer capital outlay funds, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Just curious, when are these available to take possession? Do we know yet?
I don't know that yet. They were waiting on me to, after the council meeting, and, once I let them know tomorrow, okay, we were approved or not approved. Well, now with the strike and everything going on, whether Bob has them on his lot or not, we have to find out that first, to say, hey, you're gonna get us these 4 trucks. If he has them, then I would think that it would be right away. But if not, I'll find out. Usually they'd say it's like a couple of months, sometimes to secure what we need.
And the other thing is, I am gonna ask if you could please provide the fleet list as to where we're at right now, what you have for equipment, age and miles and year and all that. I know I saw one of the pickup trucks. I guess coming from the angle of, a lot of people just see Ed Queen only asking for money or asking for things, and then some of the things don't pan out. And if you're saying that the enterprise didn't pan out for DPW in the way that was presented, then we need to know about that. And, we need to have conversation with enterprise at some point on their promises versus their commitments. And I agree. I know your trucks are gonna get beat up. They're gonna be multi-use. You want something that can overcome just about anything. But I'm just curious as to what the age of your pickup trucks are now as far as years. Because I thought you had some new vehicles. That's just where I was coming from.
We have quite a few, but on the other side of that too, a lot of them are aging. And I'm already having my foreman do that, because there's a lot of other equipment that we have as well. Backhoes, loaders, and they already started giving me the years, and, some have been purchased back in 1998. So not only are our pickups, because there was a point in time when looking back at history a little bit, back before 2009, we had an equipment fund that was, where a portion of our costs went into this equipment fund, which was really kind of like the general fund, but it was only designated for our equipment. So then that way, when you asked and said, hey, is there money available? We say, yeah, we have it from our equipment fund. That was done away with when the finances started to drop and the city tanked. And they said, hey, we have all this money sitting here in the DPW equipment fund. Well, when you went ahead and did that, well, then you didn't, we used to be on a 5-year plan with some equipment like the jet, because it's such a big piece of equipment, $500,000 for a jet nowadays. Well, if you kept it for 5 years and you worked with your vendor, they would basically give you $250,000, 50% of it back, and then you purchase a new jet. So you were constantly rotating that every 5 years. Same with your larger equipment. That wasn't getting done for the longest time when everything started to tank. So all the equipment that should have been rotated all of those years was not getting rotated. Fast forward to when I became the assistant director, now all of a sudden all this equipment is starting to fail. Either that or we're spending a lot of dollars to put into it just to fix it. So what do? You weigh your options and say, do we need new, or are we just gonna keep dumping a ton of money into these pieces of equipment? So we started to get back on track with our purchases. So yes, of course, we've gotten a few dump trucks here the last couple of years, some here, and then we got a jet, and then we got a TV trailer. So all of our stuff is getting, we're getting newer equipment, but at the same time, every time we move forward, each one of those pieces of equipment gains another year. So some of the equipment I even looked at, the one day I jumped in one of the pickup trucks, I thought it was 2 years old, and I was just like, why are these dents in this doggone truck, you know? Come to find out, it's like 7 years old. I'm thinking, holy cow, time flew by. So time is flying by. We're using equipment as you guys are allowed to approve purchases. But you can't just stop and say, well, we're spending lots of dollars on all this equipment. Equipment is needed. We've used our equipment past a lot of its time. And then you end up, like I said, spending dollars on repairs and everything else. So it is needed. If you stop doing it, then you're just going down the road, kicking the can down the road until the piece of equipment is even more expensive. I just heard from our vendors the other day that the state or whoever he just happened to tell me about, he said they're changing the emissions on a lot of the bigger pieces of equipment. So now they're saying, if you don't purchase something like, not that you're gonna be able to do it, purchase something within the next year or two here, your cost is gonna increase by about $40,000 on a piece of equipment because of the new emissions and everything that's required on some of the bigger pieces of equipment. So our vendor did let us know that the other day. So I'm going to be buying 5 pickup trucks and some more backhoes and loaders next council meeting. So that's be $3 million worth, just be ready for it. It will be. But that's just to let you know kind of the, what's,
Thank you, I appreciate if you could get the list together for, I think that'll help council.
Mhm.
Quite a few people have changed over since the last time the list was.
Sure, we'll show you, the year, you'll see, you'll be, eyes will kind of be opened up, yeah.
Any other questions from council? No, Ed, I think this is good. I think to be able to buy these from Denver is a plus. I appreciate being able to buy them in town, and
Yeah.
and I agree with you with the strike. This is the time to get them before they can't get them at all. So. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 1 no.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of council.
Through the mayor, would you roll call then?
Do you need a roll call, or is it fine?
Yeah, if it's not unanimous.
I'm the only no, aren't I?
Yeah, but then you,
But we'll just do it for
do a roll call.
clarification.
Myself.
Mayor Pro Tem Brock,
Yes.
Councilman Dowd,
No.
Councilwoman Was,
Yes.
Councilman Clearman. Yes. Councilman Mulholland,
Yes.
Councilman Quarles,
Yes.
Mayor Racy,
Yes.
motion carries. Item 8D, approval of budget amendment 2024-2.
Move to approve, Dowd.
Support West.
Any questions for Katie? Katie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening. In the last council meeting, we voted for $575.78 to be paid from the general fund for a new tree chipper. Why is this coming up in this meeting for another $61,000?
Yeah, at the last meeting, you voted on that, and then when I saw the meeting, I looked at the budget and saw there was only $45,000 in capital outlay for DPW in the general fund, so I let Ed know. During our budget meetings, we had a misunderstanding. So we had $45,000, thinking it was the lease for the tree chipper and the tree truck, but that was really just for the tree truck. So the tree chipper wasn't in there. So we're doing this budget amendment so that Ed can make that purchase that you approved. Otherwise, he doesn't have the budget to do it.
How do we prevent this going forward?
Mr. Mayor, if I may. So I've worked with Finance Director Sample just to kind of create a plan moving forward so we don't have this happen again. One thing we're going to do is we're going to get some specific budget training, particularly for the new department heads we'll be bringing in January. Finance Director Sample actually took it upon herself to create some additional paperwork during the budget process for each capital outlay request. So each specific capital outlay request would be approved or denied by the city manager, and then everyone would get a copy. And then in addition, after council approves the budget in June, we're just going to circle back the city manager and the finance director with each department head so they fully understand the budget. And as far as the difference with the 60-some thousand dollars, that's because Assistant Director Queen does not believe that the tree truck is going to arrive this budget year. So there's no need to do the budget amendment for the full $106,000. We can use that $45,000 toward the wood chipper.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 8E, approval of the sale of city-owned vacant land, 4915 South Wayne Road, ID number 55003990014000 and 55003990515000 in the amount of $1,000 and authorizes the mayor and the city clerk to sign on behalf of the city of Wayne.
Move to approve, Dowd.
Support Was.
Good evening again. As you all know, I've been charged with the task of disposing of city property that we do not utilize. This is a vacant parcel that is, I should introduce China Knowles is here with us. China owns Tiny Stepping Stones Daycare at 4915 South Wayne Road. She has a high-class problem. She is not willing to use her parking lot behind her building because she hopes to expand someday, but she needs a play area for the kids. So Mike and I sat and chatted and thought it would be really great. There is a parcel next to her parking lot that you see before you that has been vacant. I couldn't even tell you how long. So we approached her to ask her if she'd be interested in that. The Property Disposition Committee did meet on September 7th. They're recommending a sale price of $1,000. Now you need to know that the taxes are going to be $5,000 a year approximately, which is pretty significant. So I did confirm with her twice that she was prepared to pay those taxes. You should also know that she runs a really tight ship at her daycare. I know some of you were there at a grand opening. She will make sure that that area is secure and fenced off for the kids.
Questions from council? Yes.
The numbers we have here for the parcel numbers, I'm having a hard time finding out which ones. I drove by there, and I went down the alley. So if I'm standing on Wayne Road looking at this property, this is the lots to the right-hand side. I believe there's a house after, an empty lot, and then a house after that.
Correct. Right, adjacent to the parking lot.
And that's, both of those lots are there?
Correct.
And the $5,000 taxes, we got that number from the finance department, or where'd we get that number from?
Got that from the assessing department.
The assessing.
Went back at them because I thought it was way too high, and they explained to Mike and I both through email that that is the dollar amount.
Oh, it sounded high to me too.
Yes, sir.
You know, I appreciate you taking some of our empty land. Good luck to you. Sounds like you're running a good business. You need more area, so that's a good problem to have.
Thank you, Councilman Mulholland.
Any other questions?
I used to go there when it was an adult daycare, also known as the Prince and the Pauper.
Yes.
Great place.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad we have a daycare that is doing successful in the city. Fantastic.
I'm glad that you're operating there too, and that you're doing well. You're performing an integral service for the city as we grow, and I thank you very much.
Any other council? No, I think this is a good thing and give you the ability to expand your business. I'm excited for you, and I'm looking forward to having you be able to grow this even bigger. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion.
Thank you very much, Council.
Item 8F, approval of the 2024 lead line service line replacement project, Phase 1. Preliminary engineering and construction engineering professional services agreement with Stantec Incorporated of Ann Arbor, Michigan, in the amount of $395,000 to be paid from the state appropriation.
Move to approve, Clearman.
Dowd.
Second, Clearman.
Okay. Mr. Brighton, Mike?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. You have before you a proposed professional service agreement with Stantec to do both construction and preliminary engineering and construction engineering for what we're calling Phase 1 of the lead line service project. Phase 1 is going to happen in the construction season of 2024, where we address all the known lead lines that we currently have a list for. At the same time, we're going to be doing exploratory research to make sure we have all of the lead lines that we can possibly find in the city during that same 2024 construction season. Phase 2 then would be, once we develop a list of lead services that may still need to be replaced in 2025, we'll come back to you for a second or a Phase 2 preliminary engineering, construction engineering with Stantec to finish the project. And it will be sized appropriately. If there are less leads, then the cost would be less. If there are more, then the cost would be more. But we know what's in front of us right now for the 2024 season in terms of existing addresses that we have and investigation that we're going to do. And then we'll come back to you about a year from now for the second part.
Any questions from council?
Mayor, Mike, I've been approached by several of the residents over in Ward 3, on Howe Road actually, about, they're worried about their lead lines, and I know you and I spoke about this. Is there anywhere that the residents, and it's probably somewhere, that they can go to get it tested to see if they have lead lines?
They would reach out to Ed Queen, and Ed Queen would work with them to determine that.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, first, we do have a list, so we would check the list first to see if they're not already on it, and then if they're not, then we would pursue them if they had some concern about that.
Thank you, Mike.
Well,
Okay. Any questions from council? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mike. Looking forward to getting this done.
thank you, Mayor.
Item 8G, approval of stormwater management agreement for 38750 Michigan Avenue, Van Born Precision LLC for the city of Wayne to assume jurisdiction of stormwater management system and all associated maintenance responsibilities for the city of Wayne to authorize Michael Byton to sign the permit on behalf of the city of Wayne.
Move to approve, West.
Support, Quarles.
Mr. Byton?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Precision is installing quite a large parking lot on Van Born Road in our city as part of that project that has gone through approvals. They are building a storm sewer system. This storm sewer system is a system that is meeting the current requirements of the state and the county and the city of Wayne. It has a cleaning element to it, and it has a storage element to that. If those aren't maintained, then it's not worth even putting them in. And the different levels of government are aware of that. The county is the one that permitted this storm sewer system, but they're requiring, the county doesn't deal with property owners within the city of Wayne. They deal with the city of Wayne as an entity. And so they make the city of Wayne responsible for the storm sewer system at Precision. The city of Wayne does not want to be responsible for the storm sewer system at the Precision facility. So what we do is we have an agreement with this private property owner, in this case Precision, to make them responsible for their own system. And if they don't keep up that system for cleaning and storage, then this agreement allows us to go in and address the concerns at their expense. And so upon agreeing with this, upon agreement with the city of Wayne and Precision, then we would be willing to sign a permit with Wayne County allowing us to be responsible for that system. Hope that helps.
Any questions from council? Yes.
Mike, I appreciate your explanation, but it left me just a little confused. So we're not signing an agreement for us to take over this unless they basically default on their responsibilities, then we would already have the agreement in place to step in if there was an issue?
Sure, so, because this is under the county jurisdiction, the county would hold us responsible in this particular case if it was to fail. Hopefully, we would catch it before ourselves and address this, so it never got to that level, but if it did, that would be the path. And then we would immediately go to the owner and say, hey, look, you have to take care of this system, you have a limited amount of time, or we're gonna go in and fix it ourselves and bill you. And so we're essentially passing the responsibility back to the people that should be responsible for it in the beginning. But we don't want to sign an agreement with the county until we have reassurance from the property owner that they're going to maintain their system the way they're supposed to.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Yes.
You said the city of Wayne doesn't want to be responsible for the system. Do we have a choice not to be?
That's what this agreement is giving us. It's making the owner responsible. The owner is ultimately responsible anyway, but this is an agreement making that crystal clear. And keep in mind, this is not a public utility that we're talking about. This is a storm sewer system on private property that needs to be maintained so that the waters of the state, that the Rouge River doesn't get flooded and it doesn't get polluted. That's the goal here.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you again.
Excuse me, we had that item that we passed.
Yeah, it's gonna
So-
have to go into the next meeting.
So,
They didn't arrive.
Okay, so I guess, so would there be a motion to table that until the next meeting?
that's what we need.
I'll make a motion to table 4A.
Support, Dowd.
Yeah, yes.
If they show up, can we still take them?
They're
High
not showing,
chances,
they're not showing up.
oh, we know that already?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We have to vote on that now?
Yes.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
You're gonna have to have a roll call now.
If we have a no vote, we have to have a roll call.
Yeah, because it's, that by acclamation, if it's not unanimous, you would have a roll call.
Okay, so, Mayor Pro Tem Brock,
Yes.
Councilman Dowd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Was,
Yes.
Councilman Clearman,
No.
Councilman Mulholland. Yes. Councilman Quarles,
Yes.
Mayor Racy.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, administration reports.
Chief?
Thank you. Just one item tonight. In some recent communications to council, I misidentified Mayor Pro Tem Brock as former Mayor Pro Tem Porter. I just want to publicly apologize for that. No disrespect was intended.
None taken. Thank you, sir.
Okay, public comments for matters not on agenda, public comments for matters not on the agenda. Public comment is conducted in accordance with local, state, and federal laws. Each public comment is limited to 3 minutes, which will begin when the speaker approaches the podium, unless modified by a majority vote of city council. Public comment shall not be disruptive, nor contain any profanity, racial, ethnic, religious, sexual, or national origin slurs or overtones. Public comment shall not contain defaming or slanderous personal attacks. All public comments shall be directed to city council. The city council will not respond during public comments. Any violation of public comment procedure shall constitute a breach of the peace. If a member of the public engages in such breach of the peace, they may be ordered to be seated immediately or removed from the meeting by the chairperson of that meeting.
Any public comment this evening? Mr. Amos? No, Mr. Amos in the back. Hold on, he's coming.
Pardon?
Excuse me, Mr. Amos. I have a question about the property that was sold for $1,000. The parking lot behind that daycare center, I'd like to know who owns it. Because Veterans Haven's run into some conflict with this young lady about when Gleaners delivers to us and the community and the Veterans Park in that given area. She called the police on us last Tuesday that we had vehicles blocking the alley, which we may have. I didn't walk over and investigate, but apparently she don't like us. I mentioned Veterans Haven. We are a 501(c)(3) organization, and at this time, we are running drastically low on cash flow. I'd like to appeal or apply or beg, as you may, to some of the corporate people in this city, like Jetway, Unistrut, Wayne Industry, the big dealerships like Mark Chevrolet and those, whatever money they donate can be written off. We'll give them a tax slip. So it's a credit for their taxes. Any amount would definitely help us. We're doing okay in food program. We received a large donation from the Renaissance Festival people. We've gotten over 6 pallets of food from them this year. I think the grand total was closer to 12 or 14 pallets altogether. We rented liftgate Penske trucks, 26 footers, and we made 4 trips. Each trip, the truck picked up 6 pallets. The first load was 5 pallets, and it was in a U-Haul. It took us all day to unload it by hand because we don't have a high-low. But the process right now is we're going through and looking at the Best Buy dates because we can't re-educate the world. Everybody assumes Best Buy dates, pitch it. That's not true. You got to go by expiration date. So it was great that we received that food, but we need cash. We need cash to be able to buy clothing for the vets. It's getting towards winter. We had one vet call today already and ask for Long Johns.
Okay,
We're out.
okay, thank you. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the City Council. I'm here to talk the truth, not fiction. In her ruling, federal judge Kumar ruled that the Hereford reports of the hostile work environment here in the city of Wayne were paid for with public tax dollars, and the public has the right to these reports. Unredacted. When can I, along with any other resident, pick up a copy of the Hereford report? There's 3 of them. I am going to ask once again, this will be the 4th time, how much has the city spent
on legal fees for these special lawsuits, including the one for the special counsel who was Scott Ruark. Why was the lawsuit against former councilman pursued knowing that the statute of limitations had expired? I left this last council meeting and I went and did some $18,000 checkup too. And I said, hey, I'm available. I'd like a management job. And do you know what I found out? My computer screen said, MML, we've got a job for a building engineer who is retiring, and we also need a DPW director who's leaving us. So please be prepared. We've lost our city manager. We're having a hard time. This is posted on the MML. Well, the gentleman is still there. Mr. Glenn Anderson's still there. So there it is. We sure need your help. Yeah, it says 15 seconds, young lady. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nancy Pride, I live on Courier Street. I thought these meetings were live, but they're not. I turned on my television. I asked a friend if they knew if there was a meeting tonight, and I had an old meeting playing. So I said, oh, they must be having a meeting. So I came. I thought these were live. They're not live anymore? I mean, we're paying a man, what, $36,000 or more a year to run our equipment and make it live to the residents of Wayne so that they actually see the first meeting and not possibly altered. And please don't tell me that it hasn't happened, because it does. I have a question. That was one of them. The other one is, why are we taking our water and sewer capital fund to buy equipment? And I found it interesting that we're getting 4 vehicles, but we're making 5 payments of that $37,000 plus. That just doesn't somehow add up. And the other thing is, the young lady who was here for the playground. They play on the south side or the north side of their building, and it's very exposed to cars coming around the corners fast or anything like that, or major trucks. So to me, they should probably try to go back. We own that parking lot. Why can't we just let her build her building and put all her play stuff in the back where the children will be safer? I've figured out what we're talking about. Matt Anthony's is at the corner of that boulevard, and they have a drive on their south side. Right next to them is an apartment complex. I think the city of Wayne owns that, so that's not the property we're talking about that was sold. And right next to him is a house, and they have a drive on the side of their house. The 2 properties that we're talking about is the one that's next to Mrs. Rowe's apartment house, and the other one on the other side of the drive of that house. So those little children, and this is probably why she's complaining about the alleyway, are going to have to walk to the playground from where they are. You need to do your homework.
Anyone else this evening? Any more questions on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, please move the agenda.
Item 10 is the consent calendar. Only one item is the Wayne Planning Commission meeting minutes of August 8, 2023.
Move to approve.
Support, Dowd.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Comments from members of City Council.
Councilman Quarles?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. The Scarecrow Fest was awesome. I got to go over there and spend some time with the ladies from Moonlight Mystic, and we had a lot of fun. Took some pictures. If you didn't get to go, it was definitely a lot of fun. Join their Facebook page. They got a lot of things going on, and they're just a bright light in our city. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Jeremy Roberts to the police force. It's nice to see, get some new blood in, Chief. And Michigan Outlaws, what a great, great thing for them to come. I cannot wait. I'm hoping that we can get that baseball diamonds going again like we had back in the early 2000s. I was on one of the teams, so yeah, I want to play again. No, not really. And then this weekend, St. Thomas had their festival over in Garden City. I worked it as a sheriff, and what a great time. I got to meet the father from St. Mary's, actually. I'd never met him before. And he was walking around, and I got to meet him and talk to him for a few minutes, so that was a lot of fun. And we just had a lot of people at that festival, and I'm hoping as we move forward that we can start bringing some of these festivals and things into our city, because I think it's going to be awesome. And I'd just like to say to all my council members, I appreciate everything that you guys do for us in the city too. With that, I'll pass.
Councilman Dowd? That's you.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Councilman Quarles went ahead and said everything I was going to say. So I think that's why we sit on the same side together. I just wanted to echo what he said, especially welcoming aboard Officer Jeremiah Roberts. It's fantastic. I stood up at the top of where the court office is, and I sat there watching this weekend, see the activity in the park. It's one thing to see things going on at the gazebo and in that stationed area, but it's been a long time since I've seen a lot of great activity within the park and you know, people sitting together. And I kept on I could only walk so far, and I had to sit down, and nobody ever everybody let me sit with them. We chatted. Every time I sat down, I struck up a conversation with somebody. They were just enjoying the free events, the free face painting. I think they could probably still be painting faces today, right now, if they were still doing it. The kids, the smiles on their face is wonderful. It's just something we need to continue to nurture and support and bring it back to the city. That's why I really want to say, I want to make sure, Mayor, I want to make sure that on our goal sheet that bringing baseball back to the city is on that list. If you can, check that list for me, and with that, I'll pass.
Okay. Councilman Clairman?
Last Friday, I was walking along the path the UAW picketers were taking. I asked at each station what we could do to make it easier for them. The one thing overwhelmingly I heard was fire barrels or fire pits because they were cold at night. I wrote an email to the mayor, the fire chief, and even though I had sent my email at 1 in the morning, they had this taken care of by 8 a.m. the next morning. So I wanted to say thank you to both of them for that. At this point, the picketers have both fire barrels and fire pits, and are quite a bit warmer. The other thing that they asked is that they could have food trucks or something similar to that, so they'd have hot meal choices available to them. At this point, we're having a problem with parking for that, so we asked that the food trucks delivered directly to them as opposed to in a truck. I talked to Fat Man Knock and Chief Has Pizza about that. Fat Man Knock, with no donations at all, just out of the goodness of his heart, delivered about 150 hot dogs to him the other day. Quite a few of them are thankful for that. And I'm going to be working with Lori to see how we can go about getting funding just through citizen contributions, whatever, to try and get some other local businesses to drop food off for them. And hopefully we have that on our community development page soon. If that'll pass.
Councilman Mulholland?
I believe it was last week. I apologize, but I can't remember exactly when. Things have been running together so much, but I attended the behavioral treatment court graduation over at the 29th District Court. And, boy, if you want to go to a event that moves you and inspires you to hear people who are trying to better their lives, that's the event to go to. I was so impressed with the people who had committed themselves to changing their lives and changing the path that they were on. They had a great group of graduates who had some inspiring stories, and kudos to the judge and all the folks that the police department has some folks that work with them. They have some counselors. There's a whole squad that works with them, and I was so impressed with the work that they did. I also attended the Scarecrow event, which was great to see the horses out there in Gowdy Park and kids riding horses. I didn't expect that. And then Books on the Ave had a sidewalk sale along with Karma Coffee that I was able to swing by and attend. It was a great day in Wayne to get out and walk around and see things in downtown Wayne. So with that, I'll pass. Thank you.
Councilwoman Wass.
Well, I would like to say welcome to Jeremiah Roberts. It's always nice to have another officer on board, so I'm really excited about that. I have to say I am really excited about the multi-use building. When we did that master plan, I kept thinking it's a great idea, but is anyone ever going to do it? So I'm super excited for that to come in. That's a really, really great thing. And then my last thing would be Veterans Haven. That is a great organization. It helps veterans, and it also helps other community people too, not just veterans. Veterans first, but they'll help others as far as food and that kind of stuff goes too. So to anyone out there, any of our businesses out there that want to help contribute to that, please do. It's a worthy organization. And with that, I'll pass.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I want to thank Rachel and Paul Batu for putting on the Scarecrow Fest this weekend. It was really, really wonderful. Rachel is the manager of Flowers in the Mitten, and her husband was associated with the entire situation. And they succeeded, I believe, in again making the city of Wayne the center of family-friendly and business-ready activities. It was a natural and well-organized affair. I'd like to invite you, Mr. Anderson, and your associates to come join us next time when we have something like that go on. I would like to thank the Michigan Municipal League for attending this evening and providing this excellent presentation for us. And I was so happy to go to this particular event downtown with my family. I met many of my friends there, and I made plenty of new ones. The food was really good, it was reasonably priced, and the vendors throughout the market were all well engaged and helpful. And they had a wide selection and a variety of quality goods with perfect pricing. There were lots of artists there showing their wares, and the service and finished goods vendors were a pleasure to visit with. So the next time one of these happens, I invite everybody to come down and take a look and meet some interesting characters. At this time, I was able to make the acquaintance again of Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, who was visiting us that day. And finally, I just want to say that I support the United Auto Workers in their strike 110%. I support them, and I understand the issues that they're fighting for. I spoke to them, and I was informed that they're standing up for basic human rights, and that covers all those things necessary to take part in and enjoy the American experience, which is the core of what the city of Wayne is, or what our Wayne community is. Those things include having a regular job, fair pay for fair work, medical care, the ability to own their own home, and as some said to me, to be able to get married and raise a family in a stable environment. The workers actually have been protesting. This is a personal attestament. The workers have been protesting right across the street from my house, and I want everyone to know that they've been very respectful of the neighborhood, and we're sorry that they're at odds with their employers right now, but we're glad that we can support them as they work through this. Thank you.
Thank you. First thing, I'm looking forward to next meeting to be adding firefighters to our ranks. That's going to be exciting to have that, knowing that's coming up, adding another police officer. Looking forward to the future, having more police officers. I know we have more budgeted, so that's some positive for sure for our community. This Friday is going to be the John Glenn Wayne Memorial Game at Wayne Memorial at 6 o'clock. No, at 7 o'clock, but I have to be there at 6. But we're going to be, they're going to be having a Veterans Appreciation that evening, so they're going to be having the veterans come out during the game. Myself and the mayor of Westland will be in attendance. I'm going to be doing the coin toss for the game on Friday. Looking forward to that. breakfast with Senator Camilleri this week. He invited the community leaders from his district. I think it was probably yesterday. The days have just been coming together. It's been a lot of stuff happened since the last meeting, and a lot of positive things. It was interesting because it's the first time I've been at the meeting because with the shift in how they changed the boundaries. Now we have all these downriver communities that are at the table that we didn't have before. So it was interesting to see and hear some of the same issues that we're having. They're having the same issues with some things, and so that was just very, very enlightening. This in November, we're going to be having a veterans meal program for Thanksgiving. Again, myself and Mayor Londo and Wayne Ford Civic League put this together, and the council's invited to be part of that. We're going to have information to be shared on Facebook and trying to be able to reach out to our veterans. I know that they're looking for donations this year. Last year, we had over 100 veterans in Wayne that we were able to help. We need to raise in our community about $5,000 to feed those people for that day. But it just definitely was very, very cool to be able to provide those last year and in the last few years. Last year, Councilwoman Wass actually got to deliver some of those to the homes for us and got to experience that. So I mean, it's a very cool opportunity and just a great way to be able to give back to our veterans. And I just want to say I appreciate our police department and emergency services dealing with everything going on with the strike right now. I know it's probably added some extra to that we're not normally having to deal with, but I think from a city side of it, I think we've done a great job in being able to handle the situation. Have been very the ability to be able to work with the situation, I think, is not going unnoticed. You guys have done an outstanding job.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just add that both Ford Motor Company and UAW have been very cooperative.
That is great to hear. It's a tough situation, but history's being made here in Wayne, right now, and it's there's good as this unfolds. But been out there, supporting the guys and your gals out there, talking to them, and I've talked to Ford also, and just hoping that there's an end in sight soon. I think the longer this goes, the worse it is for everybody. But for sure, everybody's wanting to see something happen and be a fair and equitable agreement that affects our whole region. It's going to really make a difference and change the landscape of our community, what happens here with that. I also wanted to pass along to the council in the next couple days. There's going to be a piece on our community. The New York Times interviewed me yesterday with the chief was present. And they're going to be doing a story about our city and how the auto industry is an integral part of Wayne. So be looking for that. So thank you for the MML coming out tonight and appreciated being able to talk to you guys earlier today and look forward to working with you and our personnel department working with you to find our next city manager. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Clerm. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.